And, when you think about technology now and the advancements, it really is the equalizer. You can now compete. The things that happen in Connecticut, I like to say the group that we have here in Connecticut, our supply chain, is the best in the world. And the reason I say that is we have got a higher cost of living here. We have a higher labor cost. We have higher energy costs. So if you're making it happen in Connecticut, you're the best of the best. You can't just get by in Connecticut. You got to be really, really good at what you do.
A quick interruption to remind you to like, subscribe, and rate this podcast so we can get your feedback and know how to make it better. Hey, it's Ari Santiago. Welcome to another episode of the Made in America podcast. We are in a very special episode today. We're on location at the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technologies, Advanced Technology Center, or one of them right here in East Hartford. And I am so excited to welcome my friend Ron Angelo for another turn on the Made in America podcast to talk about what is new and exciting in supporting the manufacturing supply chain right here in Connecticut. Ron, thank you so much for coming on again.
Ari, it's a great pleasure. Love what you do. And so looking forward to the episode.
Thanks, Ron. Well, listen, it is the Made in America podcast. So even though we've done this before, we are still going to start off with the same two questions, Ron. What do you make and why do you make it? And maybe we should focus that question on what's happening right here at the Advanced Technology Center, or this Advanced Technology Center, because we're on what? Burnside
Silver Lane. Silver Lane in East Hartford. Right.
There we go. So the Silver Lane Technology Center. Right. What do we make here, Ron?
Well, we make parts, but we build process and solutions. That's what we look to do. How do we in this great center, which is the Advanced Design, Automation, and Metrology Center, we're building out processes and solutions, demonstrating those technologies to small and medium-sized enterprises, manufacturers. Why do we do it? There's nothing more important nowadays than technology adoption. How do we look at these leading edge technologies? We have got to continue to move our supply chain forward. How do we make them more technically capable? And how do we give them the skills, not just the assets, but their human capital, and make sure that they're trained to properly use and take full advantage of these technologies?
Listen, I'm a big technology guy. We talk about it a lot. I'm so excited to talk about that. I want to get into what the technologies we have here versus what's at your other center. Yep. I definitely want to talk about workforce training. I want to talk about Industry 4.0 and Industry 5.0 and what we're doing here and the additive and all that. But before we kind of get to that, can you give maybe our audience a little bit of a history of how this center came to be and sort of what's CCAT's mission and why this dovetails into the mission of CCAT?
Sure. So we're in our 18th year, and a lot of folks don't know that. We've been around a long time, and we were originally stood up to really help the supply chain, right? At the time, so you think 18 years ago, was a lot of offshoring.
Yep.
A lot of manufacturing.
Early 2000s, like 2002, right?
Yeah, and jobs were leaving the country. So the federal government stood up 3 entities around the country. One was in Ohio, one in Pennsylvania, but CCAT was also stood up at the time. And so we were looking at what can we be doing to help, again, advance the technical capabilities of the supply chain. So exactly what we're doing today was a part of our main mission, except we're doing a lot different now. Because when you look at these traditional machining techniques, optimization, even laser drilling, things have become so much more advanced nowadays. So, that's why we're here, increasing the technical capabilities of the supply chain. So it's a lot of top-down, bottom-up. We have to do work
top down, bottom up.
Yeah, you got to do both. So we're working with the federal government, the Department of Defense, Department of Energy, and these big global industrial companies that call Connecticut home. We're working with them on what technologies are they developing in-house. How can we be working with them? So it has to be industry driven. We don't do anything here at CCAT without having an industry purpose for it. And the whole premise at the end is, how do we now get that into the supply chain adoption?
So we're talking about like applied technologies as opposed to theoretical technologies. All you guys are in applied, right? CCAT's strictly applied tech.
Absolutely. We want to take those later stage TRLs, mid to late stage TRLs, technology readiness levels, that the great institutions like UConn and some of the other entities around the country are working on. How do we take those and commercialize those? What's most relevant in the short term, meaning maybe 12 to 24 months? How do we take those things? And again, how do we work with the SMEs, the small companies, and get those adopted?
So talk about, the SME, small, medium enterprises, of the 4,000 manufacturers in Connecticut, the vast majority of them are SMEs, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So if I'm an SME and I'm listening to this podcast, right, and I don't know anything about what I know about CCAT is the office building, right, with the conference centers and that technology. Tell our audience about like what's here. What is this? Advanced Technology Center? Why do you guys have it? And if I'm an SME, how do I use it?
Well, there's actually two technology centers. One of them resides at Goodwin University, and that's the Advanced Composites Center. Now, the beauty of that is, even if you're not interested in composites, it's actually a work of art for Industry 4.0 technology, fully automated, scanning technologies, a whole host of things that it's not just about what you might be building or about the particular material. It's about the other things that can be demonstrated and show you how these might have an application to your business. Where we are today on Silver Lane, this Advanced Technology Center is broken up into two parts. The one we're sitting in right now, again, advanced design, automation, and metrology. Three of the most important things that we have gotten feedback here at CCAT for probably 3 to 5 years. And now we've been able to create the right facility with the right assets. Another side of the shop that we don't see here today is the additive technology optimization and machining side. So there's over 6 different types of additive technology to do a big, broad cross-section of industry. And here in Connecticut, it's not just about aerospace. We've got shipbuilding. We build these little things called submarines, but we have rotocraft, we have medical device, we have automotive, we have consumer product. We have so many incredible industrial companies here and supply chains that support them. So we have all these things here that can be demonstrated to them, showcased to them. And of course, I know we'll get to the team here, but you've got to have that advanced team of engineers that really understand that hands-on. They've spent time on the shop floor. And how do we tie that in? So an SME, a small, medium-sized enterprise, can look us up on the website or one of the programs almost daily that we have, webinars and workshops and trainings, and see, wow, what are some of the challenges we have? How do we engage that company, really analyze what's going on there, bring them in here, and go to their company and really work out a solution for them.
That's awesome. And I want to turn to some examples that you could maybe share with the audience that they could kind of relate to. But you touched on something that I want to do before we do that. These machines aren't going to operate themselves. These computers, like I know you guys are doing model-based definition where we're doing sort of Industry 4.0 and we're doing additive, we're using SolidWorks, we're using advanced AutoCAD, right? We're doing all that stuff. Those things don't write themselves. And one of the big challenges is getting people to be able to use it. And so that's going to take people that understand it, can understand how to apply it, and can help explain that. How are you guys, what are you doing for staffing here to bring that to reality?
Well, that's great. We're in competition for talent, just like everybody else. And we've just continued to increase our talent base here, all on the technical side. So whether it's mechanical engineering, whether it's industrial automation, whether it's software engineering, PhDs in material sciences, Dr. Jacqueline Garofano just joined us, a great chief technology officer and real champion also of workforce development in women in technology. We have Joe Wysocki, who's come here now as our senior manager of all our facilities, 37-year career in development, product development, in the shop floor, understanding machining, understanding processes, and it goes right down the line. So whether a company is looking at this, you mentioned model-based definition, the digital technologies, Nasir Manin and Christy Oki, just a complete, they're just so strong and so competent in their fields right now, but all the way through again to the additive technologies. You brought up an interesting point with when you think about automation. These robots just sit there. They're just big chunks of metal. Someone's got to know how to program them. Someone has to understand how to make them work. So we have got the same challenges here, making sure we have to have that right talent, and then we have to articulate that to the company. Right. And the chances are is a lot of times the company does have a very good base talent there. But we need some additional training, some incumbent worker training, or sometimes they have to go back to school for some additional training. But that feeder pipeline as well, the career readiness, these young adults that are ready. I know there's not a bigger champion in the state than you, other than probably Kelly Valerie's, about how we preparing this near-term workforce for what's ahead of us.
Yeah, listen, I just want to reiterate the point that you sort of really touched on early when you're just talking is the talent that you guys have been able to amass here at CCAT. I've had the privilege of sort of seeing you in your tenure, which I guess isn't that new anymore, but it still feels new to me. And just seeing the changes. My second visit to this facility has changed massively since I was here. A lot more built out, a lot more renovated. You had always had great equipment. Now it seems a lot more organized and easy to work with. You got some new staff members here that have amazing experience and credentials. I mean, the envy of the world, really. I mean, these are world-class talents. It's a diverse group of people, amazing credentials and backgrounds. How did you recruit these people, Ron?
It takes a lot of time. These are very creative people. That's one of the interesting things that I have to go look for. These are not your typical person with their skill sets who wants to be in front of a machine making a part. They want to create. They want to experiment. They want to fail over and over and over again. It's just one of those things like, hey, we goofed. It didn't do what it wanted to do. Let's make it better. How do we look at the process again? And that makes us stronger every time, because that's what companies, they're facing every day. How do they improve their quality control and inspection? How do they improve their part time and their build time? Well, we're doing that here, so we know firsthand. We're standing in their shoes a lot. So, attracting that talent, first of all, it's finding that creative person. I need a real critical thinker. I want a creative person. The resume, you spend a couple of minutes perusing the resume and the rest doesn't matter. Now you got to talk to them and you got to get a good feel for them. And everyone here just really melds so well together, and they have a great time.
Listen, I had a chance to talk to them a little bit. Clearly they're geeking out on all the new tech that's here. I mean, if you're enjoying new technology and you're into this stuff, this is like a playground.
Yeah. Well, it's, again, industry driven.
Of course.
We make sure that every single decision is made, and we make sure we're communicating to the state and others. These are the technology decisions that we're making here. Is everyone okay? So we have advisory boards and people that we lean on. So we make sure, this isn't something that's maybe outdated or something that doesn't have a use for the Connecticut industrial base. It may be good in another part of the country. So we need to be really focused on what we need to be delivering to our industrial base here locally.
That's one of that kind of laser focus you constantly have on connecting to industry, making sure it's relevant, and not just relevant, but relevant to companies here in Connecticut.
That's right.
It's awesome. So let's use that to pivot over to say, what are some examples? And again, I'm not asking for names and details, but for the listeners that are out there, help them connect with some of the stuff they could leverage CCAT for.
Sure. Well, it goes across the gamut. So if we look at some of the programs, we could start with the workforce programs, for instance. Sure. We did that. We implemented that Rev-Up program. We had a great need, at the end of last year, coming through the pandemic, to bring people back to work, but not just bring them back, make them a better asset to them with some additional training. So we developed that Rev-Up program. We had over 60 companies taking advantage of that program, bringing people back and offering that additional skills training. We have a pipeline program. We can go out and actually assess talent, and we've actually been able to place that talent, some of them with a company very close by from where we're sitting right now, and have a great track record of making sure that talent isn't just being trained, but has a job and a career ready for them after. When you look at the technology, a bunch of different things have happened on that front. We've done a lot, on the additive side. It's a big leap for a lot of companies. And certainly just jumping into it, it's costly and it's a little daunting. So how do we look at
more on the daunting, right? Because I think
daunting.
I mean, clearly it's costly. Most of the businesses in Connecticut, manufacturers that I know, if they could see a clear path to leveraging the technology, making it profitable, what's made Connecticut's companies so successful is continually investing in technology. But it can be daunting if you don't know how to operate it.
It can be. So how do we show them things around like tooling or fixturing? How do we show things that maybe are a part that's a little more basic, less complex, that we can get them comfortable with? Let's build it on a polymer printer first. Let's do something with some inexpensive material and then graduate up. So it is a process. It's an evolutionary process.
So if I'm thinking to myself, well, man, I'd love to do some of my tooling, in additive. Can I just contact CCAT and sort of say like, hey, we're thinking about this. Can you guys help me figure out if it's really possible?
Absolutely. And we have state programming for that, which is the beautiful thing. A company can come in with a challenge or maybe come to us and say, we'd like to experiment in this. We've got programs to fund that sort of effort. So we can help provide a solution, introduce a new technology through a state-sponsored program. And we can actually do some demonstration projects. We're building actual parts for companies. So it's a very good approach. Now, those companies that want to take that next step, the state and the Manufacturing Innovation Fund, the Department of Economic Community Development, Colin Cooper, they have really doubled down on behalf of the industrial base, on behalf of these small manufacturers, to offer grants. I mean, over $7 million in grant funding is available for companies looking at taking that next step and bringing some of that technology into their business.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to repeat that because it deserves repeating. There's $7 million that you guys have to help support companies that want to take the next steps into technology. So leveraging CCAT, they can learn how, figure out what they need to do, maybe get a demo set up for them, a sample part made, and get some money to help build the line and get the equipment into their facility. That's pretty powerful.
It's a full holistic process right through. So yes, it's about that education, that awareness part of it, and not just saying, well, here's a grant. Because that doesn't do anybody any good.
Correct.
How do we make sure we leverage that funding accordingly and make sure we bring the right technology for the solution that they're looking for?
I think that's a really important point too. So I'm just going to reiterate it that, this isn't money where you're just going to end up with a piece of equipment, taped off in the corner that no one knows how to operate. And 10 years later, it's like, what did we buy that thing for? Because you guys have the sort of, I'll call it almost like the cradle to grave kind of approach from concept to like full production execution with some financial assistance. It's so powerful. And people go back who listen to this podcast. We've had a number of people on even small manufacturers, 15, 20, 25 people that are in consumer products that I'm thinking of right now who did a robotics implementation that leveraged CCAT grant money to make it happen. So it comes up all the time. CCAT.us. I'll just put that out there because I do think it's really important. We have to be, listen, it feels like a little bit I'm advertising for you, but the bottom line is this, is that if we're going to be successful, you talked about it. The reason of having a CCAT was jobs are going offshore. And the way to combat a labor arbitrage move is with technology. Right. So that we can get more productivity with the people that we have and get it done here. So we can save on the shipping costs. We can reduce lead times. We can be more engaged with the client, but we can reduce the per part cost by investing in automation. And that's where you guys live. So it's such a tremendous asset that I think more SMEs need to take advantage of.
And, when you think about technology now and the advancements, it really is the equalizer. You can now compete. The things that happen in Connecticut, I like to say the group that we have here in Connecticut, our supply chain, is the best in the world. And the reason I say that is we have got a higher cost of living here. We have a higher labor cost. We have higher energy costs. So if you're making it happen in Connecticut, you're the best of the best. You can't just get by in Connecticut. You got to be really, really good at what you do. Now you look at technology and say, we can level the playing field with some adoption of technology to help smooth out that labor costs, or through other processes, help lower your energy costs and your energy consumption. So the adoption of technology at this point in time is more important than ever. And it's accelerating.
Right. It's accelerating. Yeah, listen, we've moved up the food chain, right? We've been doing industrial manufacturing here for so long. The inevitable increase in salaries just came decade over decade over decade. So we have to move up that value food chain. And part of that is through technology. So I think that's awesome. Is there maybe a couple projects that you want to reference that people could maybe sink their teeth into? I know I sort of asked that already, but I don't know if you want anything else you could.
Well, again, the projects go a company if they've got an issue with training, upskilling the workforce, or identifying some new talent and training them in. We have programs specifically situated for that. If companies are looking to say, I need to look at automation, come in and look at my processes, look at what I've got in the shop floor. One of the new pieces of automation that we're going to have is actually mobile application. So it's not just coming to CCAT. We have to go to you. We have to go onto your shop floor with automation, show how this collaborative robot can work alongside your employees, and keep it there for a while to make sure you understand how those processes and flows work. So it's a very good back and forth flow. It's not just about what we have here. And in the work that we do, the most important work by far is not what happens in these walls. It's what ends up happening in the supply chain. Our value is very limited internally here at CCAT. Our value is what we push out. Right. Our value is what gets embraced and adopted by the supply chain. If we're increasing their capabilities, if we're lifting all those ships with this rising tide, then we're hitting the mark. If what we're doing here at CCAT is just kind of cool, we're not hitting it.
We're really
doesn't matter.
We're not getting the mark.
Doesn't matter. We got to be out there.
Talk about model-based definition. It's something I know you're passionate about. I know it's getting pushed. Let's just start with this for people that don't know what it is. What is model-based definition? People may see it as MBD. Go ahead. What is it?
It's the creation of a digital thread in a 3D CAD file. What used to happen is you had these blueprints or things going in 2D CAD files. The customers, the large customers, were passing files throughout the supply chain. They need to be converted. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and the cost rise on that. But also what happens is inaccuracies in these conversions take place. So this is one of these things earlier we talked about, top down, bottom up. This is coming really from the top down. It really flows down from the federal government saying we need to make sure that our files that we're converting back and forth are accurate, are working. So model-based definition looks at that base design all the way through the considerations are made, all the way through the inspection of that part, the creation of a full digital thread. It's almost like the DNA. You're creating a DNA of the part. So you no longer have the designer saying, well, I designed the part, let's go throw it into manufacturing. Well, the manufacturers get it and say, this is a ridiculous design. This is too hard.
Right.
And they go back and forth. And then all of a sudden it gets to, well, we built the part, now we have to inspect it. And now the inspection guys are scratching their head because it's too difficult, or they're not seeing, again, consistencies in what they have to be measuring for. Model-based definition and really digital thread technologies are really going to move this whole industry forward. Connecticut is uniquely suited for this. This is something we can own. We could be the leaders in digital thread technologies for the world. And we have got a great effort going on. We've got a federal program that the state was really aggressive in getting, these Defense Communities Grant. We have an Industry 4.0 program that the state, again, the Manufacturing Investment Fund Board had the foresight to put out there. So model-based definition, really, really key. We've got to make sure, like what you're doing with CMMC, when you look at the two things that are going to be most critical for the supply chain, certainly over the next few years, you have to be fully cyber compliant and all those things, and you have to be model-based definition enabled. If you don't meet those two things, we're going to have some risks here in the work that we're doing.
Listen, I couldn't agree with you more. And so if I'm interested in the model-based definition, well, listen, if you're interested in CMMC compliance, call me. But if you're interested in model-based definition, you guys are helping people understand what that is and how they can bring it into their business?
We have a team here that's model-based enabled, so they understand everything from generative design through, but it's about partnerships.
Yep.
And that's the strongest point that I think CCAT has made over the past 2 years. We understand what our capabilities are here, and we're happy with what we're doing here. And now it's about partnering. Don't get bigger and don't try to be everything to everyone. Understand where we want to be strong and very deep, and then bring in the partners. So we have an entity called DAA here in the state, another one called RAM Engineering. We're partnering with others in the state who have high degrees of capabilities in some of these digital technologies. The more folks that we bring in to the fold, now what we're doing is really creating that manufacturing innovation ecosystem. How do we grow that ecosystem, make it a more formal process? And when you're talking about model-based definition or Industry 4.0 in general, it's a lot easier because you're not wed to a machine.
Right.
You can do this virtually. We can do this through webinars, through workshops. And these are things that we have right on CCAT's website. Some of it is archived in our library, or things that we're putting on a weekly basis. So companies can actually see, oh yeah, now I get it. Let me give CCAT a call and say, hey, what can you be doing now directly with me?
Yeah, listen, I mean, your view of CCAT as being a support to industry, and I mean, you've gone to great lengths to make sure that I've seen CCAT be non-competitive.
That's right.
It needs to, not only are we doing additive technology, but CCAT needs to be additive to the industry here, not competitive. And I think you've been doing a lot about that. And maybe just talk a little bit about why you think that that's so important, why you've been so focused on making sure that CCAT is non-competitive to industry.
Well, we're non-competitive because you have to be. Again, this is a primarily, I mean, we do a fair amount of commercial work, but primarily what we do is work for the state and for the federal government. So again, that whole mission at the end is, what are we doing to increase the technical capabilities of the supply chain? Never in any of our agreements does it say, what are you going to do to increase CCAT's technical capabilities? We just have to do it. We have to do what we need to do on our end to make sure that that mission is true. Now, when you look at a lot of the companies, most of the companies we deal with, they're so focused, Ari. You came out, you grew a business. You're focused on, how do I bring in new customers? How do I get that part out the door? How do I keep my business running?
How do I make payroll?
How do I do make payroll? Keep the lights on.
Yep,
and now you're saying to them, "Whoa, we got some heavy things we're throwing at you now." You now have to dedicate your staff, some of your staff, to looking at these new technologies or adoption. And some of these business owners say, I don't have time. I don't have the resources for it. So how do we bring some of the capital to make sure those costs are at least mitigated to a degree, and then also bring the expertise into the supply chain?
Yeah, listen, the supply chain in Connecticut needs to start thinking of CCAT as part of their R&D team.
Exactly.
And that's really what you are, right? It's taxpayer funded in large measure, and we need to be taking advantage of that. So if you're in the supply base in Connecticut and you're not engaging in CCAT, you've got an R&D team that you're not leveraging, that's a big mistake.
And there was just an entity, I don't want to get the name wrong, but I think it was KPG. The gentleman just reached out to me the other day because he said, we do a lot of automation. We do proving out. So we got to get a call with them and saying, I'm sorry, you weren't on my radar, but you are now because we want you to be a technology provider for CCAT.
Right.
I want more of that. We want to be saying to customers, let's bring in the supply chain. Let's be the convener. That's what CCAT's doing. We're convening, and it's about awareness. But if you really need a project done, let's make sure you understand what's going on in Connecticut. How do we bring in great Connecticut technology providers to help? So it's not all about CCAT. Most of it's got to be about the other support mechanism we have around the state.
So you talked a little bit earlier on, Ron. I want to circle back to workforce training. And one of the challenges, clearly technology is important. One of the challenges to technology adoption is training. What's CCAT's role in helping me as a supply chain manufacturer? What would be CCAT's role in helping my employees get better trained on new technology? Well,
first of all, you do have this resource here. And it's not just here. It's the work that we do alongside is Nuntuck, Goodwin University, UConn, of course, all of these great assets. I mean, Connecticut is not short. We probably have some of the greatest assets anywhere on the planet within this small little area.
Yeah, let me throw in a little plug for the manufacturing center up at Nuntuck and Enfield. I mean, it's really amazing. If you're a manufacturer and you haven't been out there and see what the programs they have, I mean, they've got all kinds of equipment of all kinds. They do have, additive. They've got CNC 5-axis. I think they got like 8-axis. I mean, they some amazing equipment up there, and it's all there to be used. We got to leverage it. Sorry, go ahead.
But no, you're exactly right. We're leveraging that, saying, well, CCAT shouldn't be doing that because they're doing that. Let's get that next level up. Let's look at these things that might be a little more advanced and complex, because the community colleges, and even to a degree, some of the tech high schools, what they've been doing, they're doing a pretty good job of it.
Yeah,
we just have to feed more into it. We've got to feed more folks into it. So I got a little off track with your question there.
So are you guys, so just very straight up, I mean, are you guys doing incumbent worker training?
Yes.
Do you do it here? Do you do it online, or you do it on site?
Well, we do it all. COVID first forced us to pivot. We normally have actually a robust group of people coming in, and it is coming back now, which is great. We've been busier here in the center than ever. But again, it's what are we looking at in those advanced technologies? How can we be, again, showing automation, demonstrating the different uses of it, but also with partners like Renishaw. You look around and you're seeing some of Renishaw's stating that this is a global technology provider out of the UK. And here they are in CCAT, demonstrating some of the leading edge technologies here. But it's also about things that we're doing with Siemens. So you look at Siemens NX, you look at CATIA, SolidWorks, things that are a bit more advanced that you're not seeing elsewhere. Things that, when you look at incumbent worker training, are really key to taking full advantage of these next generation technologies. So we want to be complementary to what's going on in the community college system and make sure that we're looking at how do we fill that higher need or that different niche for them.
So yes, I got my worker training. Yes, I can get my technology plans. I can even get some help with funding. I can get some help with product design. Is there anything CCAT doesn't do, Ron?
Well, look, it's nice to say you can do all, and there is. Certainly when it comes to some of the grant programs and things that we administer on behalf of the state, it's a great partnership, but it is a partnership. And very often we're going to do it alongside somebody else. So yes, there are things that we can assist a company with directly, and we can handle that relationship. Other times it has to be with someone else.
Right.
And that's where you have to be a little bit humble. You got to know what you're doing and what you're capable, and knowing when to make that call and bringing in another entity.
So for people that are out there thinking about how they can do this, a call to CCAT could result in CCAT helping you. But the nice part, the way you're framed it up here, is if CCAT's not the right entity, or if it's CCAT plus Constep or CCAT plus whoever, you guys will bring in that other partner and help get that solution made.
Absolutely. Yep. We've got a great group of partners that work alongside us every day.
That's awesome, man. I'm so excited for people to hear kind of all about it. Let's just talk a little bit, Ron. What do you see the future looking like? What do you see the future for CCAT? Like, kind of what's on your roadmap, your horizon over the next 12 months? We're coming out of COVID right now.
Yeah.
I know you're feeling like kind of that energy coming back. Yeah. Like, what do you see in the next 12 months?
Well, what I see is obviously a tremendous amount of work ahead of us. I mean, I see the industry coming back in general, particularly in the commercial aerospace. But I see Connecticut getting this gravitational pull towards us. The governor, the administration, David Lehman, some of the other programs that are going on right now, the work that the governor's workforce, council is doing, things these are coming together really nicely. So I see things being done in a very collaborative way, in a very powerful way. So I also see New England getting together a little bit more. It's not just all about Connecticut. And frankly, electric boat is probably the biggest key about that when you look at their supply chain, but it's the others as well. How do we work more closely together and leverage not just the resources in the state, but also out of the state as well? We have to be partnering a lot more. The market is there. I mean, it's coming back. For instance, when you look at pre-COVID versus now, there's more job openings for manufacturing positions today. Now, that's how quickly. Now, many times folks are saying 2023, it's here already. It's right in our doorstep.
It is feeling like
it's come back nicely.
Faster.
Yeah.
So, you're in this job right now. How are you feeling about CCAT right now, Ron? You made a lot of changes. A lot of great things are happening. How are you feeling?
Well, I feel really good. I mean, I feel, first of all, great about the team. It's an honor, really, and such a privilege every day to come in. And you talk about workforce. I didn't mention Lynn Razek, Alice Stiles, Eileen Candles, folks that are there. You will not find more passionate or dedicated people. And they're not just looking, we talk about what we're doing with technology in the companies, but we also have to talk about when you look at the federal government, you look at what's going on now with the American Recovery Act, this is a time in American history unlike any others. More money is flowing out there into the communities. How do we make sure, once and for all, we build the right structure and no one is left behind? Our highest unemployment areas and the areas where there's underserved, underrepresented populations cannot be left behind this time. There is too many opportunities out there. And when we look at Connecticut saying, well, how's our inward migration? Well, it's not great. How are we pumping out all this new talent it's limited. Where the solution is right in the inner cities. It's in the urban areas. It's in these underrepresented or distressed communities. So you have a group of passionate people that are digging down now, really getting boots on the ground in the streets. So we've got this other area that is so impactful, and it's about changing lives and changing the communities and linking these manufacturing opportunities to these other populations as well.
And CCAT's taking an active role in that?
We've been doing it for over a decade. And we do it for, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Working Cities Initiative. These are workforce solutions. These are entities we've been doing things with for over a decade. So we've got a great track record, not just being a fiduciary for the type of program, but actually, delivering on the program.
When you think about the manufacturers that have these job openings that can't fill them, if there's a manufacturer listening right now and it's going, all right, well, there's a pocket of talent in some of these, areas that are untapped. How do I go about tapping them? What's the answer to that?
Well, you come to CCAT for that. But again, it's a holistic approach to it. Look at what the workforce boards are doing. And again, coming out of the governor's workforce council and their strategy, better engagement there. How do we make things a little bit more efficient? What's going on with the pipeline? All of that. But, if a company says, look, I'm looking for a particular skill set, and I need a couple of these people. CCAT can help identify that talent, help them fill that position. More narrowly focused. We're not about the big numbers. We're about execution. So, one of our programs, we had over 75 people go through this program. 72 of those people, over a year later, are still in the job. And that's what matters. They didn't just get a job. They're now in a career. They're getting upward advancement. They've changed the whole future of their family. So it's a really great story to tell. But look, the companies need good quality talent by no means. But we've got some other avenues, untraditional avenues that we're tapping into as well.
Dude, it's really important. I think you hit the nail on the head. There's really nothing more to add there. Yeah. Ron, it's been really awesome kind of getting out here, getting to see what's going on at the Advanced Technology Center and getting to catch up with you. Again, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing what's going on here. Yeah. And for those that are out there who haven't engaged with CCAT, ccat.us, it's such an important resource in Connecticut. I'm just trying to yell it from the mountaintops because anyone that's not using this is just leaving chips on the table. We got to take advantage of that. We have the opportunity now, reshoring, getting that work here and keeping it here. It's going to make sure having technology is going to be critical to making that happen. CCAT can play a role, and I hope everyone will take advantage of it.
Well, I'm just going to say thank you because, man, you summed it up right there. But thank you for having me on. It is a great story to tell. We want to get out there more. And again, your message is really been so great for the manufacturing community. So, we're all in it to win it, as you would say.
Stronger together, baby.
There we go.
Made in America with Ari Santiago is brought to you by IT Direct.
As always, thank you so much for tuning in and spending some time with me today. My goal is to help build a community where we can learn and grow together. Your input, feedback, and engagement is critical to making that happen. Please do comment, like, and subscribe so more and more people can hear what we're doing and join our community of growth and success. Thanks so much for tuning in. Talk to you again soon.